People who work from home, obviously, by its very definition, are typically working using a telephone and a computer and an internet connection. There are some jobs I understand that you just cannot do from home no matter what. But if you are working from home with a computer and an internet connection, it's important to make sure you are prepared with the right tools. So, first of all, one of the most obvious things is make sure that you have a really solid internet connection. If you're going to be making phone calls online, like through VoIP systems, or you're going to be doing video conferencing and maybe doing some streaming or uploading of large files, it's important that you have a fast internet connection. So whoever your internet provider is, call them and find out what is the fastest service that you can possibly get for the most reasonable price. Obviously, that depends on who your provider is, but make that phone call and then also ask them, tell them what you're wanting to accomplish, because it may be that where your internet connection is way over here, and where you're trying to work might be 37 feet this way behind 3 walls. And it might not make sense to run a cable directly from here to there, or to assume that whatever wireless router they have built into the modem that they provide you, it might not be safe to assume that that's the best setup. You might have to set up a repeater station or something like that. So you want to make sure that you're setting yourself up with the best technology that you can have. And obviously the internet is a huge part of that. One thing that's really helped me is having wireless printing. I'm a huge fan of having a wireless printer, because what that means is that I can have my family computer in a separate room and me in my room, and we can all kind of print from no matter where we are. There are some printers you can buy that have wireless printing built into them. There are some printers you can buy that have certain protocols like AirPrint with Apple devices. And there are some printers that don't have anything at all, but you can get a little station that you can plug your printer in and share it on your network. There are ways to look into that. I'll share some resources in this course, some links of places that you can look to find these items to purchase, or to kind of set up your home network with whatever it is that you already have. Wireless printing is a huge help to me. Scanning can sometimes be a challenge, but there are apps that you can get where you can literally take a picture with your phone and convert text and documents that you take pictures of into PDFs. And let me tell you, if you've done this in the past and you've said, yeah, but the quality is crappy, the quality these days is fantastic. In my case, I haven't had a scanner in 3 or 4 years. I scan things all the time with my phone. There are also apps you can use to help you use your cloud if you use cloud technology like Dropbox or Box or OneDrive with Microsoft Office 365. There are ways that you can integrate the power of the cloud and your infrastructure as a whole into a tiny little device that you can use with your hand. Several of the apps that I use currently are things like Scanner Pro, where I can scan an item with my iPhone and then save it to something like Google Drive or Dropbox or Evernote. All of these are apps that I use, and they're really good and they're really fast, and most of them have a cheap or free level that you can sign up for and give it a try and figure out what it is that you actually want out of an app like that. The biggest thing that I can explain when it comes to getting the right apps and software is that it doesn't really matter what the name of the app is or the software. The bigger question is, what do you want it to do? What is your personal workflow and your style of work? And how can you harness that technology to come under you and help you? So one of the biggest mistakes I see people make who try to take their business online is they say, I'm going to get this software service and I have to wrap my style of doing business around that app or that service. That's totally putting the cart before the horse. A better thing to do is to kind of close your eyes and just take 2 or 3 minutes and really envision how it is you do business. How do you work? And then ask the question, okay, what kind of software or apps can I add to this to help me make the most of it, rather than having to relearn or learn an entirely new way of doing business. So for a great example, I have some clients who prefer paper. If you like paper, that's fine. I'm not really a paper person myself. I use it sometimes. But rather than trying to force a client like that into using an iPad with an Apple Pencil, let's say, where they're using a stylus to create things digitally, you could take a small step towards that by having them write down on a sheet of paper whatever it is that they want, and then taking a picture of it with a scanning app, and then saving it to a shared folder in Dropbox or something like that. That's much easier than giving them new hardware and telling them, forget the way that you've done business for the past several years, try this whole different way. I'm a big fan of creating a list of how you like to do things and then asking the question, knowing that, what are the services I can add to make this more efficient? Rather than saying, here's a whole suite of software tools, download all of them and use them all. That's overwhelming and frustrating. One of the most important business productivity tools I've ever used is my iPhone. And it doesn't have to be an iPhone, it can be an Android phone. For me, it's an iPhone. The power that this holds is unbelievable. You can use an iPhone to do almost anything in your business, aside from obvious things like checking email and making phone calls. Those are the basics. But you can really start to research what kind of apps or workflows or processes can you use your iPhone to help you accomplish. For a great example, I mentioned that I like to take walks. I frequently take walks during business hours, and I'll think of thoughts about, this project I'm struggling with. What if I took this other approach that I hadn't thought of before? Well, I'll use the Notes app in my iPhone to write that down, and then when I get back to my computer, because the Notes app synchronizes with iCloud, then it's also on my computer. Or I can also record myself using the Voice Memos app. I can say, next Tuesday, meet with John and discuss the such and such, or whatever. And then I don't have to write anything down. And it's a hands-free dictation device. There are so many things that you can do, way too many for me to explain on a video like this. But let me just say, if you have a smartphone, find out in whatever way you can what it's fully capable of. And then, like I said, use the list that you've created of the way you like to do work, the way that your brain process works, the way you prioritize things. Like what's a day in the life of your work day? What does that look like? Get a snapshot out on paper if you have to use paper. Take a snapshot of that and say like, well, I need to send emails, I need to make phone calls, I need to upload PDFs to the such and such portal. Like just map out what you do on a daily basis. And then start to do some research on what are some additional tools that your smartphone or your iPad or software solutions that you've never even heard of. What are some of those tools that you can add to your workflow? There are lots of websites that can help you figure this out. There are App Store guides. You can just type in certain keywords into the App Store or Google Play and then see what kind of apps are available and then start to determine, okay, would this help me accomplish this task? Yes? Good. Would this help me accomplish this task? Yes, it would, but it's too complicated, so I'm going to go with this. However that works out. Try to figure out what technology you can use with something like your phone to augment your normal business process. A final thought about hardware and software and apps and technology is it's very easy to get so fragmented with all of the things that you're doing that you can't remember where you put things. The double-edged sword of using cloud computing services, for example, or things that synchronize, or various apps, is that if you have 16 different apps that you use on a daily basis, it can be ridiculously difficult to try and figure out, I have a note somewhere about a phone call that I had with somebody, but I can't remember that person's name. Did I put it in my CRM? Did I put it in Evernote? Did I write it down on a piece of paper and then scan it? And then did I finish that process of scanning that document and actually put that PDF in Google Drive? Or did I put it in Dropbox? Or did I send that as a draft? or did I send that as an email, or did I compose an email and save it as a draft? It can really make you pull your hair out, understanding where is all my stuff. That's why I'm a big proponent of not using technology first. Figure out what it is that you do and then think of technology afterwards. Don't sign up for some service just because somebody says it's cool. If you don't need it, don't use it. If you do need it, use it, and use it in a way that's consistent. Make sure that you have a plan in mind of, when I do this, and then I save this here in this format always. If you can start to map out a process, or at least get in the habit of always doing things the same way, you won't find yourself scrambling on a Tuesday at 11:22, knowing that you've got a phone call with a client coming in 8 minutes, but you can't remember their name because you forgot to write it down, or you did write it down, but you don't remember where you put it. So use technology, but what's more important than using technology is figuring out how you're going to use that technology and doing so consistently.